5 days ago, on the afternoon of Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, something happened in Abuja that most Nigerians are still trying to make sense of. Two of the most recognizable opposition figures in this country, Peter Obi and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, walked into a party headquarters, collected membership cards, and joined a political party that did not exist 3 months ago. That party is the NDC, the Nigeria Democratic Congress. And while Nigerians were trying to process that, the ruling APC went on record, called Peter Obi a political nomad and a politician made of jelly. Within 48 hours, 17 members of the House of Representatives had also dumped another party to join the NDC. The NDC's national convention is happening today, May 9th, and the presidential ticket has already been zoned. Here is the question nobody is answering clearly. Is the NDC Nigeria's last serious chance at opposition, or is this just the same story with a different party name? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will have your answer. Before we dive in, if you are just finding Naijanewsfeed, welcome. This channel is built for people who want to understand Nigerian politics at a deeper level, not just the headlines, but what is actually going on behind them. The only way you can support this work is by subscribing. It costs you nothing. Hit that subscribe button right now and let's get into it. To understand why Sunday, May 3rd was such a big deal, you need to understand the journey that got us here. Because Peter Obi and Kwankwaso did not just join the NDC out of nowhere. This is the result of almost 3 years of failed opposition strategy. Let's go back to 2023. Tinubu wins the presidential election with 8.8 million votes. Atiku Abubakar comes second with nearly 7 million. Peter Obi comes third with 6.1 million. Kwankwaso comes fourth with 1.47 million. The anti-Tinubu vote was enormous. Combined, those three opposition candidates got over 14 million votes against Tinubu's 8.8 million. But because it was split 3 ways, Tinubu won. The lesson from 2023 was clear. A divided opposition cannot beat the APC. The opposition needed to unite behind one candidate in 2027. So what happened? All of them converged on a new party, the African Democratic Congress, the ADC. Atiku left the PDP, the party he had been in for decades, to join ADC. Obi left Labour Party. Kwankwaso left NNPP. In April 2026, they held a summit in Ibadan and publicly pledged to field a single candidate against Tinubu in 2027. It looked like the plan was finally coming together. But underneath all of that, the ADC was burning. Legal battles over leadership, factions fighting factions, court cases in multiple states, and at the heart of everything was one unresolved question that nobody would address in public. Who gets the presidential ticket? Atiku wanted it. He is a former vice president, and he had structured his entire political move around contesting the presidency one more time. Peter Obi and his supporters were pushing hard for the ticket to be zoned to the south, arguing that since Tinubu is from the southwest, any credible replacement should also come from the south to maintain the regional rotation principle. Kwankwaso had his own ambitions. Nobody blinked, nobody gave way, and the ADC's legal chaos gave Obi and Kwankwaso the justification they needed to leave. Peter Obi formally joined the ADC on January 1st, 2026. His entry was initially perceived as a boost to the coalition's credibility, but internal tensions soon surfaced, disagreements over leadership structure, power sharing, and concerns about external interference. That is barely 4 months from entry to exit. On May 3rd, they walked into the NDC, and Nigerian politics shifted again. But here is the part the headlines are not telling you. This party they just joined, it came through a court order, its registration is being challenged, and its national convention hasn't even happened yet. So what exactly are Obi and Kwankwaso walking into? Let's talk about what the NDC actually is, because this is where it gets interesting. The NDC was officially registered by INEC on February 5th, 2026, alongside the Democratic Leadership Alliance.
The party's registration followed years of legal disputes dating back to its initial application in 2017. Its eventual recognition came after a federal high court ruling compelled INEC to grant approval. Serike Dixon disclosed that the groundwork for the NDC began as far back as 2017 when the initial application for registration was submitted to INEC. He noted that the commission had at the time acknowledged the application and confirmed that the proposed party name met constitutional requirements. The process experienced delays before being revived in 2025. So this is not a party born yesterday by ambitious politicians chasing power. At least that's the founder's argument. Dixon says this was 9 years in the making. He resigned from the PDP, the party he served for decades, to build this platform. He has described his vision as a party that can stand with the ANC of South Africa in its finest years, ideological, structured, built to last. But the controversy around the NDC's registration is real and it is not going away. Umar Ardo, a prominent leader within the All Democratic Alliance, claimed that INEC ignored its own procedures by registering the NDC, pointing out that while the ADA was among 8 associations cleared in October 2025 after meeting digital documentation requirements, the NDC was conspicuously absent from that initial publicized list. Despite its absence from the earlier publicized lists, the NDC was ultimately registered following a specific federal high court order issued in Lokoja, Kogi State. Dixon responded forcefully, releasing the original 2017 INEC approval letter and dismissed the criticism as propaganda from political opponents trying to destabilize the party before it can find its feet. Since registration, the NDC has launched a digital membership registration drive and begun building its structures nationwide. The party commenced nationwide congresses on May 1, 2026 and has scheduled its inaugural national convention on May 9, 2026 in Abuja. At the convention, the party is expected to formally adopt its constitution, ratify leadership positions, and outline its electoral strategy ahead of the 2027 elections. Primaries are expected to follow shortly thereafter. In terms of structure, the NDC has appointed pro-tem national vice chairmen across all 6 geopolitical zones: Northwest, Northeast, North Central, South-South, Southeast, and Southwest. It has pro-tem state chairmen across all 36 states and the FTC. This is a party building its national spread in real time, which means it is racing against INEC's timetable for 2027. Here is the most important institutional point. Buba Galima disclosed that the NDC has zoned its 2027 presidential ticket to the southern region of Nigeria and that the party would conduct open primaries to determine its presidential candidate rather than a consensus arrangement. That one sentence changed everything, because it means Kwankwaso, who is from the north, cannot be the NDC's presidential ticket. It positions Obi as the frontrunner for the ticket, and it frames Kwankwaso's role as the northern running mate who delivers votes, not the man at the top.
This is the core of the video, the part that will make you see this story differently. Let's go through the key figures in this NDC presidential picture, one by one. Senator Seriake Dixon, the architect. Former governor of Bayelsa State, senator representing Bayelsa West, the founder and national leader of the NDC. Dixon is the most important figure in this story, and he is the one getting the least attention. He built this party over 9 years. He left the PDP, one of Nigeria's biggest political machines, to do it. He is the one who called Obi and Kwankwaso to Abuja. He is the one who handed them their membership cards. In a video clip circulating after the defection ceremony, Dixon suggested that Obi and Kwankwaso were qualified and suitable for the party's joint presidential ticket, saying, "We have seen very handsome, very qualified suitors, very suitable suitors, and we can pronounce you already in-laws. The formalities will await." That is not a neutral statement. That is a party founder telling you in coded political language that the deal is already done. The primaries are a formality. The OK ticket is the plan. The question about Dixon is this: what does he get out of this?
He is from Bayelsa, South Nigeria. He left the PDP, which controls Bayelsa politics almost entirely, to build this new party. His own state's political structure is reportedly split between him and the sitting Bayelsa governor. His national ambitions are real, and having Peter Obi and Kwankwaso under his party's banner gives the NDC national legitimacy overnight. But if the NDC wins in 2027, Dixon will want something significant in return. Watch that relationship carefully. Peter Obi, the frontrunner. Former governor of Anambra State, the NDC's most high-profile new member, the expected presidential candidate. Obi defended his decision to join the NDC, saying, "The condition of our nation and the urgent need to rescue Nigeria informed my decision to leave ADC for NDC." He added that the decision followed deep reflection and was not driven by personal ambition. His political track record in numbers. In 2023, running as Labour Party's candidate, Obi pooled 6.1 million votes, more than any third-party candidate in Nigeria's history. His support was concentrated among young, educated, urban voters, a demographic that has never been more politically active in Nigeria's history. But here is the brutal, honest analysis. Peter Obi is now on his 5th political platform. He was in the PDP, he left for APGA, he left for Labour Party, he left for ADC, he is now in the NDC. The ruling party's response was swift. Presidential spokesperson Bayo Onanuga described Obi as a political nomad and a politician made of jelly, suggesting his exit from the ADC was motivated by an inability to compete for the party's presidential ticket against Atiku Abubakar and former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amaechi. That narrative, the nomad who can't stay anywhere, is the weapon the APC will sharpen and use relentlessly between now and 2027. And it resonates. A commercial driver in Oshodi captured what millions of ordinary Nigerians are feeling this week. He said, "All these political movements don't move me again. Whether Obi or Kwankwaso, what I want is one thing: let fuel and transport be affordable." Peter Obi's path to the presidency in 2027 requires one thing above all else: stability. The obedient movement of 2023 was built on the idea that he was different, that he was disciplined, measured, and consistent. Every party switch chips away at that brand. The NDC has to be his final destination. If there's any crisis in this party, any sign of another move, his candidacy collapses.
Here is the thing they are not telling you about Peter Obi's 6.1 million votes in 2023. Those votes were cast against a Muslim ticket in a highly charged religious atmosphere. That specific moment may never repeat itself, and the man who is most aware of this is Tinubu himself. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, the Northern Engine, former governor of Kano State, former senator, former minister, leader of the Kwankwasiya, the expected vice presidential running mate. The Kwankwasiya, identifiable by their red caps, is a genuine mass movement with deep roots across Kano and the entire Northwest. In 2023, he got nearly 1.5 million votes, almost entirely from the Northwest. In a tight national election, that bloc is decisive. But here is the tension that nobody in the NDC is willing to address directly. Kwankwaso did not come to the NDC to be a deputy. He has been presidential material in his own mind and in the minds of his movement for years. The Kwankwasiya members are fierce in their pride. A political analyst from Kano told Daily Post this week, "Kwankwaso is not a small politician. He has his own movement. This idea of him joining anyone is where the problem is. It has to be partnership, not absorption." If the NDC formally zones the ticket to the south, meaning Obi is at the top, will Kwankwaso's base follow him into a VP position? That is the central unanswered question of this entire realignment, and it is one the NDC has to resolve before its primary elections, which are expected to begin in late May 2026. Atiku Abubakar, the shadow candidate, former Vice President of Nigeria, still in the ADC, not in the NDC, but relevant to everything.
Associates of Atiku Abubakar said plans by a broad opposition coalition to rally behind a consensus presidential candidate remain intact despite recent political realignments. His aide stated, "The party is like a train. At some point, passengers will alight and others will get in. Obi and Kwankwaso have decided to get off the train, but that has not stopped others from getting in. The destination is the 2027 election." In the 2023 election, Atiku got 6.98 million votes, more than Obi. He is still the single most vote-tested opposition politician in this cycle. The ADC has set May 25, 2026 as its presidential primary date, with nomination forms pegged at 100 million naira. That means the ADC is still moving. That means there will likely be two major opposition candidates going into 2027, Obi from the NDC and Atiku or another candidate from the ADC, and a split opposition is Tinubu's best friend.
It is actually happening in Nigerian politics. I need something from you right now. Drop a comment below. Tell me honestly, do you think the OK ticket of Obi and Kwankwaso can actually beat Tinubu in 2027? Yes or no? Explain your answer. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. It is the only way you help me keep this channel going. I don't run ads. I don't take sponsorships from politicians. The only thing that keeps Naijanewsfeed alive is your subscription. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, let's keep going.
Let's zoom out. What does the NDC's emergence and this entire realignment mean for Nigeria as a nation? First, APC's strategic advantage grows with every day the opposition stays fragmented. The APC remains the ruling political structure and primary beneficiary of opposition transition instability. APC's strategic advantage lies in its institutional control, governance narrative, and ability to frame opposition realignment as evidence of political fragmentation. The current fragmentation across PDP, ADC, and transitional opposition structures provides APC with short-term narrative advantage ahead of 2027. However, this advantage may shift if the NDC stabilizes into a fully unified opposition force. Let that sink in. The APC wins simply by watching. Every press conference about defections, every court case, every public argument about zoning, all of it is free advertising for the narrative that the opposition is not ready to govern. Second, zoning is back as a live and dangerous debate. The NDC has zoned its presidential ticket to the south. Tinubu is from the southwest. The argument being made, and it has real logic, is that the South should complete its cycle in power before handing it back to the North. But this reasoning is bitterly contested by northern politicians and voters who argue that competence, not geography, should determine who leads Nigeria. A Kano analyst this week said, "I believe northerners are wise enough to take a rational decision. It is not just about where someone comes from, but about competence." This tension is not going away. In fact, it may be the defining fault line of the 2027 election. Third, the voices of ordinary Nigerians are being drowned out by elite political chess. Survey the streets of any Nigerian city right now and you will hear the same message. A trader in the southeast said, "People still trust Obi, but we are also watching closely. We don't want promises again, we want results." A driver in Lagos said, "Whether Obi or Kwankwaso, what I want is let fuel and transport be affordable." This is the warning that every NDC strategist should be taping to their wall. The political sophistication of Nigerian voters has grown dramatically. Party switching no longer generates automatic excitement, it generates suspicion. The NDC must lead with policy and fast. The international community is paying careful attention to Nigeria's 2027 elections, and for good reason. The UK, US, and EU all raised formal concerns about electoral irregularities in the 2023 elections. A repeat would be internationally damaging for Nigeria's democratic reputation. The emergence of a credible, well-structured opposition party, which is what the NDC is trying to become, actually serves Nigeria's democratic health.
International observers and foreign governments prefer competitive elections to one-party dominance. For the Nigerian diaspora, which contributes an estimated $20 billion annually in remittances, the political direction of Nigeria directly affects the value and stability of the naira, the security of assets, and the quality of life of family members back home. The Obedient movement in 2023 showed the diaspora's enormous capacity for political mobilization, fundraising, media amplification, voter education. If the NDC consolidates and Obi is the candidate, expect that machine to activate again, particularly in the UK, US, and Canada. There is also an economic dimension that is deeply relevant. Nigeria's economy is under severe stress: inflation, fuel costs, unemployment. Any serious presidential candidate in 2027 will need a credible economic alternative to Tinubu's reform program. The NDC has not yet published a detailed manifesto. That is a gap they need to close quickly if they want to be taken seriously by both Nigerian voters and international financial institutions. Let me address what people are getting wrong about this story. Misconception 1. This is just another party switch. It means nothing. This one requires nuance. Yes, Nigerian politicians switch parties more than most countries on earth, but the NDC is structurally different from the Labour Party or the NNPP. Those were pre-existing parties that Obi and Kwankwaso entered and exited. The NDC is a party that was created, in part, to become the vehicle for this specific moment. Seriake Dickson spent 9 years building it with exactly this kind of moment in mind. That does not guarantee success, but it is not the same as routine party hopping. Misconception 2. Obi plus Kwankwaso votes in 2023 simply add up to a winning total. Obi and Kwankwaso's 2023 numbers were tied to specific conditions: the religious tension around the APC's Muslim-Muslim ticket, the novelty of the Obedient movement, and anti-establishment sentiment at a peak moment. Political analysts have warned that the votes distribution and sentiments of 2023 have been altered by changing dynamics. Their combined 2023 votes were cast under very specific emotional and political conditions that may not be replicated. An NDC presidential campaign in 2027 will have to be built from scratch. Misconception 3. The NDC's registration controversy will destroy the party. Unlikely, but it cannot be ignored. The Federal High Court ordered the registration. INEC complied. Dickson has produced documentary evidence from 2017. For the NDC to be deregistered, someone would have to overturn a court judgment, which is legally very difficult. The more realistic threat is not deregistration. It is the same internal crisis that destroyed the ADC: ego, zoning, and ticket fights. The NDC's real enemy is itself. Here is one scenario that makes everything I have just said irrelevant, and it is the scenario the APC is quietly hoping for. If Kwankwaso's ego wins over his strategy, if he decides he cannot be VP when he believes he deserves to be president, the NDC fractures before it ever gets to a primary, and Peter Obi will be looking for party number 6.
Here is exactly what to watch over the next 3 to 6 months. Watch the NDC National Convention, May 9, 2026. This is tomorrow. What gets formalized? Does the party constitution explicitly zone the presidential ticket to the south? Does Seriake Dickson make any statements that make the OK ticket official? Who takes key leadership positions, and does anyone from Obi or Kwankwaso's camps get national executive roles? The convention is the first true test of whether this is a unified party or just a coalition of ambitions. Watch the NDC primaries, expected late May 2026. Buba Galadima confirmed the party will hold open primaries, not consensus selection. That means other southern politicians could theoretically contest the presidential ticket. Will anyone challenge Obi? And if no one does the primary process still have enough credibility to give Obi's candidacy democratic legitimacy in the eyes of INEC and the public? Watch Atiku's ADC timeline. The ADC has set May 25, 2026 as its presidential primary date. If Atiku contests and wins that ticket, Nigeria's 2027 election is shaping up as a three-way race: Tinubu APC versus Obi NDC versus Atiku ADC. A three-way race in Nigeria's first-past-the-post system heavily favors the incumbent. Watch for any legal attacks on the NDC. The ADA's Umar Ardo has already made noise about challenging the registration. If the AGF's office moves against the NDC legally, the same way pressure was applied to the Labour Party, NNPP, and ADC, it signals that the ruling party sees the NDC as a genuine threat worth neutralizing. Best case for the NDC. Convention succeeds tomorrow, primaries are clean, Obi is the presidential candidate, Kwankwaso accepts VP. A handful of PDP governors, unhappy with APC, quietly provide grassroots infrastructure. The 2027 election becomes genuinely competitive. Worst case for the NDC. Ticket fight between Obi and Kwankwaso factions. Legal challenges paralyze party structures. Atiku stays in ADC and splits the opposition. Tinubu wins a second term in a fragmented field, possibly with less than 40% of the vote. At the start of this video, I asked you, is the NDC Nigeria's last serious chance at opposition, or is this just the same story with a different party name? Here is my honest answer. It is both. The NDC has real structural advantages over everything Obi has tried before, but it carries the same fatal risk: ego and power sharing between men who all believe they deserve to be president. The NDC will either be the opposition coalition that finally cracks the APC's grip, or it will be the footnote that proves Nigeria's opposition cannot unite no matter how much the country needs it to. Let me bring this home. Nigeria's opposition just made its biggest and boldest move of this political cycle. A party registered 3 months ago, built over 9 years in the background, has suddenly become the center of gravity for millions of anti-Tinubu voters. Peter Obi is in, Kwankwaso is in, 17 lawmakers are in, the national presidential ticket is zoned to the south, the national convention is happening tomorrow. But here's the truth. The NDC's toughest battles are not with the APC. They are internal. The question is not whether Peter Obi can beat Tinubu in a fair, one-on-one contest. The question is whether this coalition can hold together long enough to even get to election day without tearing itself apart. The next 90 days will tell us everything. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Do you believe the OK ticket of Peter Obi and Kwankwaso is Nigeria's best shot in 2027? And what does the NDC need to do right now to make it work? I read every single comment. If this breakdown gave you genuine clarity on what is happening in Nigerian politics right now, do me a favor. Share this video with one person who cares about Nigeria's future. Because the only way Naijanewsfeed grows, the only way I can keep producing research like this is through your support. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss the follow-up when the NDC convention results drop tomorrow. Every subscription tells me this work matters. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.